slope-intercept form, we've been doing some stuff with it, you've worked with them before. What do they mean by the slope-intercept form of an equation? What does it look like? Y equals mx plus b. It's called slope-intercept because it contains explicitly the slope and the y-intercept, the m and the b, right? And this is the only form by which you can just look at it and see what's the slope and what's the y-intercept, right? Like in yesterday's homework, many of them were not in this form, so you just solved it for y to get it in that form, right? Okay, and so we already know that slope is rate of change, isn't it? Okay, and how do we find the rate of change? The rise over the run. It's the change in what? Over the change in what? Change in y divided by the change in x. Now, if you have, say, 2 points, x, y, in the plane, how do you find the change in their y values if you have 2 y values? How do you find the change?
Triangle.
Well, that's not how you find it, that's just
Delta.
Right.
Delta y.
Okay, let me back up. If you have 2 numbers, yeah, you subtract them, you find the difference, right? And if there's 2 points with 2 x values, how do you find the change between their 2 x values? Subtract their x values, and that's what goes on top is the difference in y's or the difference in x, right? Okay, so that's just kind of review. So let's take a look here. We're kind of going backwards now, right? So they give us a graph of that line, and they want us to determine an equation for y equals mx plus b in the form. Okay, so what 2 things do we need to write an equation in that form? We need what and what? We need m, yep, and b. And we can write it, that's the only 2 things we need. So let's take a look at, well, b is pretty easy, right? So that's 2. So b equals 2. And what does the m equal? So let's start here. Like you want to start at somewhere where it hits like a vertex perfectly, right? And go to this one then, right? Would be the next one it hits. Up 3. What now? Over. To the right too. So they're both what? Positive, okay? So our m equals 3/2. So what's the equation?
Y equals 3/2 x
Plus what? 2. Did you say 8?
I said B.
Oh, I thought you said 8. Okay. All right, so now they want us to test our equation for an x equals 2. Well, let's look over at the graph. What happens when x equals 2? What's the y that comes out? Or we want to take some more time to count? I'll give you a couple minutes. It's 5. So if we put this x of 2 into that equation, we should get a y of what, guys? 5, right? Let's see. So let's see, y equals 3/2 times 2 plus 2. So y equals, what's 2 divided by 2? Times 3. So 3 plus 2. Oh, also.
It equals 5.
Yeah. What is 2 times? Let's do the other. What's 2 times 3? Divided by 2. Okay, right? So what does y equal?
5.
Hey, isn't that what we said we'd get over there?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. What?
What do you think? No, you're plugging
It is. But now the x is 2. It is 3x plus 2. Yes. All right. So the y-intercept is an integer. You know what an integer is, right?
Yeah.
Positive or negative whole number. And by the way, yeah, no, okay. The slope here, is that an integer? 3/2?
No. Yes. No.
Is that a whole number?
No.
No. It's like 1.5, right? That's not an integer. right?
Yeah, yes.
That's in between. 1.5 is an integer?
No. You're joking.
Oh,
That's so serious.
okay. So it's easy to get the exact relationship. So anyway, so in this case, look where the graph hits for the y-intercept. Can you actually say exactly what that is? No, you can't, right? Because there's not really enough resolution here in the graph, right?
1.9.
Hmm?
1.6.
Well,
5. 2/3.
oh, well, anyway, just,
2/3.
let's try this. So we're still, all right, finding the equation, right? So it's still going to be y equals mx plus b. I would always start by writing that down, right? And that way you know you need two things. What do we need?
M and B.
Me need m, and me need b. And that's all I need. Okay? All right. Let me ask you a question. Are there any sample xy's on that line that we could perhaps plug in
Yeah.
for this x and y here?
I got it. Well, okay. X, you go to -4, and you go up, and you'll get 3.
Sure. I
What?
don't feel like using any negative numbers though.
Oh,
Hey, here's a point.
450.
Look at that. You see that 2, 1 right there?
2, 1, and 0.
Are those pretty easy numbers to work with?
2, 1, and 0, 4.
Yeah, okay. So let me ask you a question. If our equation graphs that line, then any point on it, like 2, 1, would make our equation true, wouldn't it? They're like sample xy's, aren't they? Okay. So can I find the slope of that line? Okay, let's see if we can find the slope of this line. Let's find where it hits something exactly, like there. Up,
Down. 1.
so -1, and right 3. I said up 1.
Well, I said up on everything, but otherwise still negative.
So the slope is pretty easy to get, right? What's the m in this equation?
M is -1/3.
-1/3. All right, we got half of what we need, right? Now me just need b. Yeah?
Yeah.
Do I have any sample xy's that I could put in here real quick?
Yes.
Right? So could I replace the y here with a 1 and the x with a 2?
Yeah.
And the m with a -1/3? And then the only thing left would be what? B. If I have numbers for everything else, could I then just solve for B? Oh, let's do that. So let's use, how do I write this? So I'll just make a note here that use a sample x comma y pair, right? So let's say we're going to use 2 comma 1. You could use whatever you want to use. You could have used those negative ones there, but bigger numbers with negatives, it gets a little messier to solve, right? Either way, it doesn't matter. We'll use 2, 1, just for kicks, right? All right, so I'm going to put them in here. What goes in for my y if I'm using 2, 1? 1 equals, I've got an m already,
-1/3 plus or times 2.
times 2 plus b. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's solve this for b. That's not going to come out to a nice even number, is it?
No.
So why don't we just call that -2/3? Now, hang on. Wouldn't that be -2/3
Yeah.
plus b? Now, I didn't write anything here yet. Here's why. I'm going to have to add this to both sides, right? To get the b by itself. Okay, so if I want to add this to the 1, when you try to add fractions, what do you need? You add or subtract fractions, what do you have to add? Common denominator, right? So I'm going to think ahead a little bit. You want a common denominator.
Put 1/3.
So 1 needs to be over 3. What's going to go on top to keep it a 1? A 3, right? Isn't 3 over 3 the same as 1?
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking ahead a little bit here, right? So I know I gotta add negative 2/3, right? And I need a common denominator. So now I could add this, huh?
1/3 equals B.
So plus 2/3, and then plus 2/3, right? What is 3/3 plus 2/3, kids?
Oh, 5/3.
5/3 equals B. Well, that's silly. Right, you see what I did there? So, listen, to summarize. Y equals mx plus b. What two things do you need? M and B. The M was pretty easy to get in this case, wasn't it? Just go to the graph, count, rise, and run. The B, what did we do? Took a sample point, x comma y, plugged that into y equals mx plus b with the M, right? And then just solved it for b. You know, hopefully there won't be too many ones with, with fractions and stuff that you need common denominator. But now, we're not done. We have to write the equation, don't we? What's the equation of that line? Y equals, what is it? Negative 1/3 x plus 5/3.
But in the x says that's the equation for x equals -4.
We said that like we did something wrong. I guess we just haven't finished yet.
Oh, well, I took a
Right.
lot of space.
So I have like another thing to do.
Oh, shoot.
Test your equation for x equals -4. Whatever. I don't care about this. Like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Should end up with a 3, right?
Yeah, that's what I was talking.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So if we put in -4, we should get a -3 out. So I guess we could try that.
-3, where does the -3 come from?
When you go over to negative.
Here's
4.
-4. Go up to the graph. Oh, +3.
That's what I was talking about.
+3.
I thought you were that.
I just was saying negative, and so it stayed in my mouth. I don't know. So you're just going to plug those. Do we have to do that? You can do that, right?
No, I know.
We're making an equation of one. Mx plus b. What two things do you need? Would you stop answering for people when I'm asking them? What two things do you need? Right after the word M and B. What's M? Slope. You thought correctly. What's B? Y-intercept. Can you count the slope? Rise over run. Goes down, so that's -1. And to the right, +3. So -1/3. You understand that going down is negative and going to the right is positive? And how far down did you go? So it's -1. And how far to the right did you go? 3. So rise over run. The rise is -3, or -1, and the run is 3. So -1/3. How did what? Yeah, so that part is what's going to go in for the M. We got that part. We're going to write it by finding that and B. Right? So that we found the M already, yeah? Didn't we? All right, what's next? Next page.
What did the last speaker say?
Oh. Now, we also need to find the equation. We know 2 points on the line. Okay? We're going to be using y equals mx plus b, right? What two things do we need to write the equation? M and B. Now, M will be a little bit different here. Slope, right? Rate of change. Change in y divided by change in x. So is this let's just say this is the first point and the second point, right? Is that my first x and first y?
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just call this x1, comma, y1. Just to say it's the first. And this would be what? The second. x2, comma, y2, right? What is the formula for slope?
Y2 minus Y1.
It's on the front page, right? Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. So we don't have a graph this time. Yeah. We don't have a graph this time to find, I'll give it a second, the slope, the count, right? But we have 2 points, X's and Y's, we can plug in here, right? So we still need an M and a B. We just need to find a new way to get our M, right? What? Okay, so first thing I want everyone to do is write this down. Y equals MX plus B. You say, me need M and B. Okay? So in this case, we're given 2 points. How are we going to find our M for that equation? Put them into the slope M formula. Oh, slow down, slow down. Here's our Y's. So 17 minus 5, Y2 minus Y1 over.
Over 5 minus 2.
So it gives us what? 12 over, which is 4. So here's our M. We got the M. Now all we need is the what?
B.
B. Well, you remember we used a sample point in that last example, sample XY to plug in?
Can we use 5 and 17?
Okay. Are both of these going to be points on that line?
Yeah.
So they'll both work, won't they? You can use either one of them. The only question then you have is, well, which one looks like it's easier to work with? Yeah, it doesn't matter, but I look at it, I think I'd rather use the 2 and the 5 than the 5 and the 17, whatever, right? So we're going to put it into Y equals MX plus B. What do I put in for the Y if I'm using that?
5.
So we'll do 5 equals,
4.
M is 4,
Plus B.
plus B, right? So I'm using 2, 5 to plug in there. I could have used 5, 17, it doesn't matter, right? All right, so 5 equals what?
8.
Plus B, and now what do we do?
Minus,
Subtract 8 from both sides. What does B equal?
B equals -3.
Now write the equation. We have an M and a B. Write the equation. Y equals,
Minus 3.
I heard a question. What are they what?
4.
Shh, shh. What? Okay. You see this here? Y and X. And Y equals MX plus B. That's a Y, that's an X. Because it's an example of infinite of them on there, so you can use either one of them, right? And that's how I can find my B. I could have also put a 17 in for the Y, but then I'd have to put a 5 in for the X. Either way, okay? All right, now why don't you guys try part B here on your own? Start with this, Y equals MX plus B, and then say to yourself, me need what? M and B, okay? So maybe start out finding your M using the slope formula, the M formula, right? And then take a sample, one of those points, plug it in to find your B. So it looks like a lot of you got that M was what, -1/2? M equals, you do 3 minus 5 over 2 minus parentheses -2, right? Which is 2 over, or no, yeah, -2 over 4, which is -1/2. Now, some of you subtracted the other way, right? Did you do 5 minus 3 over -2 minus 2?
I didn't.
You can subtract them the other way as long as you do it the same direction for both the X's and Y's. Yeah?
Let's do C and D.
Yeah, go ahead and do C and D if you got this done. Okay. Now, somebody tell me what point they picked to plug in to find B.
2/3.
2/3.
Yeah, that's
2/3?
2/3.
Or 2.
The 2 count of 3?
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe one of you used the -2, 5. Either one. I'll use the 2, 3 and plug it in. So the Y becomes a what? 3 equals -1/2 times what? plus b. What's negative half of 2? Add 1 to both sides. What does b equal? 4. So what's the equation? So here's the thing that happens. A lot of kids get to here and they stop. They take their thumb for
Y equals
y
plus 4.
plus 4. Did you get that, Hannah? Outstanding. Okay. Move on and do C and D, guys. Move on and do C and D. Oh, we got another one.
Wait, it equals 3.
-3.
Yeah, -3. That's
What is? What do you? What?
on C.
Oh, I'm not even on that yet. I'd recommend always starting out with writing y equals mx plus b so that you're crystal clear on the two things you need, which are what? M and b. There's different ways to find them, right? We found a couple different ways to find m, right? If you got the graph, what can you do? How do you find m if you got the graph of the thing?
Go to like the whole dollar.
Count, rise, and run, right? Okay? Or sometimes the graph hits a nice whole number b, doesn't it? The y-intercept, and then it's a piece of cake. Okay? All right, let's look at it. What do we need? M and B. Let's start with the M. What minus what on top?
-4
4 minus 11. If you wonder where we're getting that, it's this thing, right? Okay, what goes on the bottom?
-4 minus -1.
4 minus -1. Not 4 minus 1, right? And not 4 minus -1.
Minus.
Equals -5
What is it? -15
over 5.
over 5. Let's put that in lowest terms or divide it out. What do you get?
-3.
So our M here, right, is what? -3. We got that part. Now we just need the what?
B.
The B. Well, is there a sample XY we could plug in? You did 11 and -1?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody do 4, -4?
I did 4 -4.
Remember, this is an X, comma Y. This is an X, comma Y. So you should know where they go in here, right? Let's use the, okay, let's use, I don't care. You want to use the -111?
Yeah.
No, you know what? I want to use the 4, -4.
Yeah, easy.
Just because you said that. Okay, so if I'm using this point, what goes in for my Y, everybody? -4 equals M. What's my M?
-3.
-3. What X am I using?
4.
Times 4 plus B, right? So -4 equals -12 plus B. What do I do now, everyone? Add 12 to both sides. And I get what for my B?
8.
B equals 8. Amy, is that what you ended up getting? Okay. And so, hey, there's my M, there's my B. Do not forget to go back and rewrite this. Y equals -3x plus 8. That was the whole goal, right? All right, now you guys are copying this down like that. Did you not do it because you didn't know how? Back in the back there, back row. Yeah, question. Shh, what?
I don't know what I did, but I messed up the equals thing.
You mean the slope?
I got messed up.
What? Say that one more time. This?
Yeah, I messed that up.
Well, what did you have here?
I had negative. I had 11 minus.
So you went the other way. That's fine. So you did, but you remember, you got to go the same direction for both, right? So if you did 11 minus, what did you say?
No, I did.
Oh, no. It's the Y's on top. -1's an X. Ah, now you got it, right? Okay. That's a common mistake. The two Y's go on top and the two X's go on the bottom. What'd you guys get for part D?
Y equals.
5 thirds X minus 1.
How many got y equals 5/3 x minus 1? Let me go through it real quick.
That makes sense now.
So write this down. Because when you get in the midst of all this stuff, you might start forgetting exactly what you're going after, right? So if you write that down, you can go back, oh, okay, I need this and that, right? So let's get the m first. Wait. You tell me what we're going to do. We're doing 11, there's no 11. We're doing part D.
Fine. I'm doing
4.
Go ahead.
minus 19.
4 minus 19
3 minus.
over 3 minus 12. Now, some of you might have done 19 minus 4, but then on the bottom you'd have to do what? 12 minus 3. They got to go subtract them in the same order, right? So either way it'll work as long as it's okay. And so it gives you what? Negative 15 over negative what? 9. It's going to be positive. Put it in lowest terms. 5/3. So that's my m. Which point do you want to use to find the b?
3 of 4.
Oh, come on.
3 of 4.
Well, you just like to make it difficult, don't you? Let's use a 3/4. I mean, you can't use the 12 and 19, but geez, why not? These are simpler. No, they're easier numbers.
4
Like if you were in kindergarten, I'm sure you'd pick 3/4, right? Because you didn't even know what those numbers were.
4 equals
4 equals thirds times 3 plus b. This is easy. The 3's just cancel, right? Subtract 5. b equals negative 1. There's that guy. What's our equation? Y equals
5/3
x minus 1. Okay? In the hang of it now?
Yeah.
Okay, we got one more little problem here to do.
Wait.
Wait, Hannah.
Anywho.
Wait.
Oh.
Back to this one. Car traveling straight road after 1 hour. How far is the car gone?
17 miles.
72 miles from Chicago. Okay, after 3 hours. The car is how far from Chicago?
180.
So are they driving toward Chicago or away from Chicago?
Away.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. I mean, and I want to determine an equation for the distance d that the car is after h hours. So hold on. Generally, x and y, x is an input, y is the output, right? In this case, what are they using for an input? No. Which letter? H for hours, you input hours, and the output will be what? Distance. So instead of x and y, we're going to, x comma y, what are we going to have? H comma d, right? So it's somewhat the same as with x and y, except it makes more sense, right, in the context to use h and d. H for hours, d for distance. So, hold on. You know up here how they gave us two points?
Yeah.
Okay, x comma y.
Section.
Do we have two coordinates h comma d here? We don't.
Oh, yeah.
No, we do.
4 hours.
There's one. Is there another one?
3 hours. And 180.
They traveled over.
So give me two coordinates here.
72.
Give me an h hours comma d distance coordinate.
1 comma 7.
1 hour comma 72 miles, right? Now give me another one.
3 comma 188.
3 hours comma output of 188. And they want us to make an equation
Oh my God.
for distance d in h hours.
188.
So instead of y equals mx plus b, this will be what?
188.
D equals
H.
m
H.
MD or MH.
h plus b. H is the input X, D is the output Y. Right? So it's same as with X and Y, they're just using D and A. Okay, so what two things do we need?
188.
We need, good, M and B. Right? So is this really any different than the 4 we just did?
No.
Okay, except you might need your calculator because the numbers are bigger, I don't know, right? So this is gonna work just like all of these 4 up here, except instead of X and Y, we're using what?
188
D and
minus
H,
72.
H and D. So go ahead and find your M, and then find your B, just like you did in the last 4. Everyone do that now.
I got
So,
29 is B.
what did you get as B?
29.
Layman Young.
Nope, but thank you for playing. Let's do the M. So you did probably 188 minus 72 over 3 minus 1, or if you're like Hannah, who likes to do the opposite of everybody, you do it backwards for both of them, but that'll work, right? And you got what? 116 over 2, which is 58.
116.
Yeah.
188 minus 72. Last time I checked was 116. Now I need a B. Which of the ones do you want to use there?
I did
72
Okay.
equals 58.
Yeah, that looks pretty easy. You got something times 1, right? So 72 equals 58 times 1 plus B. Yeah?
Yeah.
Equals 32 equals
So,
8.
yeah, I got, what? Subtract 58 from both sides. And you get what?
14.
B equals 14.
What?
Now let's go write our equation. What is it?
I got 43.
D
D equals 58H plus 14.
58H plus 14. Okay? How fast is he driving, by the way?
Very fast.
Really?
58.
58 miles an hour? Okay? They kind of get it now?
Yes.
If you need to write a linear equation, what 2 things do you need?
I'm a B.
M and B. There's different ways to find M, isn't there?
Yeah.
Sometimes he'll just tell you M equals, and man, that's easy, right? Other times you got a graph, and how do you find M if you have a graph?
You go rise and run.
And then how do you find B if they don't just give it to you or it's on the graph? What do you need?
To
Like a sample XY to plug in, right? With the M that you just found, right? And then the only thing left that's not a number is B, and you just solve for it, okay? All right.